Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into AI in education. It's really changing things up in learning and teaching, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge topic, and it impacts pretty much everyone, students, teachers, even parents trying to help out at home.
Right. We're seeing all sorts of AI tools popping up.
Yeah, things that promise to, really shake up the whole educational experience.
Definitely. We're talking personalized AI tutors, um, tools to maybe lighten the load for teachers.
And accessibility features, too, making learning available to more people.
For sure. But I guess the big question hanging over all this is this AI push actually a good thing for learning overall? Or are we maybe, I don't know, losing something important along the way?
That's exactly what we need to figure out. That's the core of this deep dive, really.
Okay.
We've looked at quite a bit of material on this, and the plan is to really try and understand the most important bits of AI in education based on what we found.
To give people a clear picture of what's happening and, like you said, why it matters.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's start with personalized learning. We hear that term thrown around a lot. How is it different from, say, the way most of us went through school?
Well, traditional schooling often meant, everyone in the class gets pretty much the same stuff at the same speed.
Right, the standard curriculum.
Exactly. Personalized learning flips that. The idea is to tailor the whole experience, the content, the pace, the difficulty to each individual student.
Taking into account their strengths, weaknesses, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Their strengths, where they need a bit more help, how fast they pick things up, even maybe how they learn best.
And the AI is kind of the engine that makes this personalization possible at scale. I saw mentions of platforms like Khan Academy using AI tutors.
Yeah, they're a good example.
How does it actually work in practice, like for a student struggling with, say, fractions?
Okay, so imagine a student working on fractions. The AI tutor can track their progress, like moment by moment. If they start making consistent mistakes, maybe they keep mixing up the numerator and denominator, for instance, the AI can spot that specific misunderstanding.
Which a busy teacher might miss in a big class.
Potentially, yeah. The AI can then immediately offer targeted feedback, maybe some extra practice problems just on that specific issue.
And slow things down a bit.
Or adjust the pace, yeah, until the student really gets it. And, the flip side is true, too. If a student's flying through algebra,
Right.
the AI sees that and can offer harder problems, maybe introduce related concepts to keep them challenged and, moving forward. So very adaptive.
Okay, that continuous assessment piece sounds key. Now, moving beyond the student side, AI as a helper for teachers, this sounds really significant.
It really could be. One of the biggest things is tackling those really time-consuming tasks. Grading comes up a lot.
Oh yeah, imagine grading, what was the example, 120 essays.
Exactly. That's a mountain of work. But AI tools are getting pretty good at analyzing essays for things like grammar, style, even checking if the arguments hang together.
And providing feedback much faster.
Potentially in minutes, yeah. Which, frees up the teacher's time.
Time they could spend actually planning lessons or working one-on-one with kids who need extra help.
Precisely. More time for the human aspects of teaching lesson design, individual support, fostering discussion.
That could be a game changer for teacher workload. And I also read something about AI helping spot students who are starting to fall behind.
That's another interesting angle. AI can analyze patterns in student data grades, sure, but also things like how often they log into the learning platform, how long they spend on materials.
Engagement metrics.
Right. It looks for subtle signs that might indicate a student is struggling or disengaging. This allows for early intervention.
So the teacher gets a heads up before it becomes a major problem.
Exactly. They can step in with support, maybe extra resources, before the student gets really lost. It's about being proactive.
Okay, another area that really stood out was accessibility. How is AI helping there?
This is a really positive application, I think. AI can provide tools that just weren't feasible before on a wide scale. Well, think about real-time captioning for lectures or video.
Oh, huge for students with hearing impairments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And similarly, AI translation tools.
Yeah.
For students learning in a second language, these can help them understand materials, participate more easily.
It really lowers barriers, doesn't it? Makes education more inclusive.
Definitely. It creates more equitable access, which is, a fundamental goal.
So, okay, we've got personalization, teacher support, accessibility, lots of potential upsides. But as we mentioned at the start, there are definitely concerns too. What are the main ones that kept cropping up?
Well, one big one is this idea of over-reliance. If students get too used to say, having an AI like ChatGPT basically write their assignments,
Yeah.
are they actually developing those crucial skills themselves, like critical thinking, research skills, learning how to structure an argument, how to write effectively?
Right. If the AI does the heavy lifting, is the student really learning? That wrestling with the material seems important.
It's fundamental, yeah. That struggle is part of how you build understanding. Bypassing it might mean missing out on real learning.
That makes sense. And the other big flag raised was data privacy, right?
Absolutely. For these AI systems to work, especially the personalized learning ones, they need data, lots of student data.
Performance data, engagement data.
Exactly. And that immediately brings up serious questions. How is this data stored? Who gets to see it? How is it being used? Is it secure?
Schools need to be really careful about that.
Extremely careful. Protecting student privacy is paramount. You need robust safeguards and, just as importantly, transparency about how the data is handled.
Okay, let's make this a bit more real. Were there any specific examples, like countries or schools using AI in interesting ways?
Yeah, a couple stood out. In South Korea, they've apparently rolled out AI tutors specifically for English learning.
And the results?
Reports suggest improvements in test scores and also, interestingly, in students' confidence speaking English.
That's positive. Any downsides noted?
Well, the educators there also stressed the need to teach students how to use these tools properly, not just as a crutch, Guiding responsible use is key.
So, teach the tech and the ethics around it. Got it. Any U.S. examples?
There was mention of a U.S. university using AI analytics. They're trying to predict which students might be at higher risk of dropping out.
Based on those data patterns we talked about.
Presumably, yes. The idea is to then proactively offer support, academic help, counseling, whatever might be needed to help those students stay enrolled and succeed.
So potential for good, but always with that need for careful implementation.
That seems to be the recurring theme, yes.
All right, let's dive into some listener questions. We got some really thoughtful ones. First up, is using ChatGPT for homework cheating? That's the million-dollar question right now, isn't it?
It really is. And the answer isn't straightforward. It's not a simple yes or no.
It depends.
It really depends on how it's used and what the goal of the homework is. So if a student uses it to, say, brainstorm some ideas, maybe get help structuring an outline, or even just check their grammar.
Like a writing assistant?
Kinda, yeah. Many would see that as using AI as a tool to support the learning process. That's generally okay, or at least it's a gray area universities are grappling with. But if the student just tells ChatGPT, write me an essay about X, and then copies and pastes that and hands it in as their own work.
Yeah, that sounds like cheating.
That's definitely academic dishonesty. Full stop.
It reminds me of the calculator debate back in the day. A calculator helps with computation, but you still need to understand the math concepts, right?
That's a perfect analogy. The tool should help you learn or practice, not replace the actual learning and understanding part. If you're just outsourcing the thinking, you're undermining the whole point.
Okay, clear distinction there. Next question. Can AI ever replace teachers completely?
Okay, this one comes up a lot too. And based on everything we know about good teaching, the answer is a pretty resounding no.
Definitely no.
Definitely no. Look, AI can handle certain tasks, sure. Grading multiple choice tests, delivering practice drills.
The repetitive stuff?
Yeah, some of that. But teaching is so much more than that. It's about human connection, motivation, mentorship. It's about sparking curiosity, guiding discussions, understanding a student's emotional state.
Things an algorithm can't really do.
Not in any meaningful way, no.
Yeah.
That empathy, that ability to inspire, to build relationships, that's fundamentally human. AI can be a tool for teachers, but it can't be the teacher in that deep sense.
That human element is irreplaceable. Okay, last listener question. What's the best AI tool for helping my child with math? Any specific recommendations?
There are some quite popular ones out there. Photomath is one people mention.
How does that work?
You basically take a picture of a math problem with your phone, and the app shows you step by step how to solve it.
Ah, okay. Useful for checking work or understanding steps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's Khan Academy's AI Tutor, which we mentioned earlier. That's good because it adapts the practice to your child's level.
Right, the personalization.
Yes. But this is really crucial. These are supplements. They shouldn't replace actual teaching.
So use the apps, but make sure the child is still getting help from a real person.
Absolutely. That interaction with a teacher or a tutor, the chance to ask questions in the moment, get different explanations, that's still vital, especially for really understanding math concepts.
Okay, good advice. So wrapping up this deep dive then, what are the main headlines? Where does this leave us with AI in education?
Well, I think it's clear AI isn't going away. It's becoming embedded in education. And it offers real potential personalization, accessibility, making things more efficient.
Big potential benefits.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But we have to be smart about how we use it.
It's not a magic bullet.
Not at all. We need to be really mindful about not becoming over-reliant, seriously tackle the data privacy issues, and always remember the importance of that human element.
Human teachers, human interaction.
Exactly. The best path forward seems to be finding that balance, using AI wisely to enhance what humans do best, not replace them. Pairing the tech with critical thinking, ethical awareness, and good teaching.
A thoughtful integration, basically. This has been really fascinating. It definitely makes you think, doesn't it? How this evolving relationship between us and AI, how's that ultimately going to change what learning and teaching even mean in the future?
That's the big question to keep pondering, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.